Hey there, everyone. Florida man here. Not really gonna be looking at the camera. Taking a nice drive back from Moldova. Had to leave the country to register my vehicle. And I got about a nice hour and a half drive on a very straight, very nice road in Ukraine. So I thought I'd just kind of ramble on a little bit, fill up the time, and share what it's like driving in Ukraine. Um, yeah, I think that's what I want to talk about with you guys today. So, driving in Ukraine is probably a pretty unique experience if you've never been to Ukraine before. Or if, let's say, it's not the craziest of driving. We've all seen videos online of like places in South Asia where you see, buses that are just swerving in and out, heavy traffic. But Ukraine is something else. It is definitely something else. First off, to start off, I brought my van over from the U.S., from Florida. I brought it over. Um, Original game plan was I had no idea what I was going to do in Ukraine. And before the war started, I was still going to bring my van over to Europe to do like a little, Euro van trip for like 2 or 3 months or whatever. But I decided when the war started, it'd probably be better if I used my van to do humanitarian work. So I outfitted my van to like an expedited layout so I can have a bed in there, but the bed goes up and, I can fill it up with humanitarian goods and whatnot and drive around the country and, do good, sleep wherever I need. I don't need an apartment, don't need to rent hotels. That makes, pretty convenient. So that was the original game plan. And I guess I'll start about dealing with the borders because I just dealt with the borders. Pro tip, the Polish border sucks. If you're bringing a vehicle into Ukraine, the Polish borders usually suck. They take forever, all right? If you're coming anywhere from like central to south, honestly, I would almost recommend you take, yeah, don't go for the main Polish one. Honestly, the Moldovan border, it's the least painful of all. It's least painful, but it still took me like 3 hours. And the whole reason was because they asked me if I had a green card on the Moldovan side. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. This time they did. I said no. So you just have to go to like one of the kiosks on their side. But it's always a pain in the butt. So yeah, I think it took me in total. I think I reached the border around 11. It's 4:30 now. So I'd say around 3 hours. It took me around 3 hours at the border, which is actually quite not bad. That's going through Ukraine to Moldova, into Moldova, leaving Moldova back into Ukraine. That's how fast it was. That was one, two, three, four, border checks, and I did that in 3 hours. If you do the Polish route, it's literally going to take you 8 hours one way. That's the first time I came into Ukraine. It took me 8 hours to get into country. That was a story in itself, man. Having no idea. Usually, I'm not really big on trying to do a lot of research or pre-planning because I know things are always changing. So I just knew that once I got on a certain road in Poland and I just head straight, I'm going to eventually hit the border. I was surprised when I hit like a dead traffic wall and I was still probably 2 miles away from the border. And it was a dead crawl. It took us 8 hours to get there. And then once I got to the border, I was like, deer in the headlights. I studied Ukrainian before I came here for a year. I had a tutor. She helped me a bit. But, it's like always, self-study, not actually hearing the language, how people actually use it. But when they start asking you questions, man, they just see that look of fear on your face. You have no freaking idea what you're doing. Other fun note, I brought in this American vehicle from Florida. And, America, each state has its own rules when it comes to its vehicles. Florida doesn't need a front license plate. I've never had a front license plate on any of my vehicles. And of course, pretty much everywhere in Europe, front license plates are mandatory, and especially in Ukraine. And so when they saw me enter the country without a front license plate, everyone kept asking me, "Where's your license plate?" And I just kept telling them, it's an American machine. It's from Florida. It doesn't need a license plate. And it doesn't. Honestly, it actually doesn't. That's the research I did do. I did look up all the rules online. And basically, it's registered in Florida. If it passes registration in Florida, and if this country is in an agreement or some big agreement accord, I think in the 50s or even 40s, might have been earlier, and that's how vehicles could go across country. All these, as long as your vehicle meets the registration in the state that it was registered in, it can drive in the other country. That's how it works. So I technically do not need a front license plate, but after having guys with guns pull you over like for the second time, looking at you confused, speaking you in Surgic about why you do not have a front license plate, and you trying to tell them in broken Ukrainian that you do not need one, you're like, yeah, no, it's, you can be technically right, but you're wrong. So luckily beforehand, the great thing in the U.S. is go on Amazon. I had the forethought to buy myself a fake plate, so I just put a fake plate up front, same numbers and everything, but I don't know if that's legal or not, or how that works. I guess it's a decorative plate. It just has the same numbers. But to the Ukrainians, they just see it as like the actual number plate, so they don't mind. So I don't get any hassle anymore about that. But yeah, at the border though, with the vehicles, usually they're going to ask you, is this vehicle for donation, or are you selling it, or what's going on with it? I know a lot of people, when they come over, they're driving vehicles in because they're donating it to the military or something. And there's going to be proper documentation. Make sure it's literally papers, please. If you ever heard of that game, it's papers, please, really. Get all your documents in order. Have yourself a nice file. Have it all put together. Because, it's going to be a hassle, man. You need a lot of documents constantly fumbling around. Keep all your papers in order. Once they see that you have your stuff in order, they kind of realize it's not your first time, and so they're less questioning. I found it when you have all your papers in order. They're not trying to like quiz you, kind of work. But yeah, my first time they asked me, are you selling the vehicle? This is all in Ukrainian, and so I could understand them. I said, yeah, sure. It's like, is this your vehicle? It's like, yeah, it's my vehicle. Are you selling it in Ukraine? It's like, are you taking it to Ukraine? Yeah, I'm taking it to Ukraine. But what they meant is like, are you going to sell it in Ukraine? But they said, are you taking it to? It's like, yeah, I'm taking it to Ukraine. So then they try to get me to do a VAT stuff. I'm like, what? Why am I paying a VAT? And VAT in Ukraine, it's 20% VAT. At the beginning of the war, they waived it. Be careful too when you're reading legal stuff online before you come to Ukraine. Check the dates. Dates are important. Laws are constantly changing in Ukraine, especially when the war started. And then like the year after. Check the dates. When you're reading documents, when you're trying to look up what the proper legal thing is, check your dates. Because I got fooled on that because I was like, oh, I'll just get Ukrainian plates once I'm in Ukraine. Yeah, no, it would cost me, and it's not worth it. So it's better for me just to take this vehicle out of country and bring it back in. And that's another thing too. Sometimes the legal system here, man, a lot of people don't understand the legal system at all. Even people that should probably know a bit about it. I had a lawyer tell me when I was meeting him about getting a residency permit and stuff. He told me my van could only be in Ukraine for 2 months. I could be in the country for 3 months. My van could only be in the country for 2 months. That is wrong. That is true if you have residency in Ukraine. And that's not temporary, that's full residency. Those are two separate words, residency. Temporary residency does not mean residency. You need to have permanent residency for that to apply to you. Because I went to a local office after I got my temporary residency to try to apply for, the license plate, or just figure out what to do exactly. I was going to see if I could get some clause or something to work out for military thing for donation organization. Just talk to them. I literally talked to the head of the department. He said, no, you do not. You're a foreigner. Even if you have temporary residency, you're not a Ukrainian resident. So therefore, I do not need to do that. That's not legal advice. That's my personal experience that a person told me. Do not hold me to law because someone might tell you otherwise. But that's my experience so far. And I just left the country, and this van's been in the country for 10 months. So, and the guys at the border asked me, how long was your van here? I said, oh, it's been here for 10 months. They asked me, it's like, was it more than a year? I said, no. And they're like, all right, you're fine. So that's my personal experience. So, yeah, it's interesting trying to figure out the legal system here. It's a bit of a headache. But yeah, back to driving and all that sort of stuff. Driving wise, it's very different from the US. The laws are different. The rules are kind of different. Best advice is if you're coming into Ukraine first time, take it slow and just do what other people do. Even if they go crossing lines, cross that line. Obviously, if you see a guy driving recklessly, don't follow him that way. But if you see normal traffic and they're crossing a line, just cross that line. Lines here are something different, honestly. They kind of mean something different. That took me a while to figure that out. Um, it's people here are aggressive drivers, but then on the other hand, you kind of have to be. The roads condition wise, it is true. Even if you're nowhere near the front, some of the roads here are really bad. I heard Venetia had really, really bad roads before Rashenka became president, and then they modernized because that was his home city. I've been to certain areas, like when I first came into the country, I ended up going to Zakarpathia to meet someone. Those roads, you will find potholes that will just KO your vehicle. If you're not careful, if you're not watching where you're driving, you will just hit a pothole that will knock your vehicle out. And you're going to have a really bad time if that happens. That is no fun. You got to be really careful. So I always suggest if your first time, if you're going on a new road that you've never been on, time's not an issue, do it during the day. Don't drive at night. If you've never driven down that road before, do not drive at night. You'll be surprised sometimes how some roads are, how the signs work. In like Europe, you guys kind of have a lot of the European countries have a similar system where it comes to like, the what is it, that yellow triangle, like the right of way for a route. In the U.S., I've never seen that. Primarily, it's just we know like a certain road type, there's a certain person has the right of way, the other person doesn't. And most U.S. roads, it's very like grid-like. It's not very organic. So a lot of the roads here are more organic, and there's weird turns and twists. And there's times where I got honked at because in the U.S., I'm on a road and I'm like, all right, I have right of way. I'm just going straight. I don't have right of way. I actually lose my right of way to a smaller road, like a tribute road that's merging onto. They have right of way. Even though I'm like a 2-lane road, they're a 1-lane road. They have right of way. And, in the U.S., I've just been pre-programmed to know that that's not right of way. So, that's something to take in mind here. You got to be really careful with the signs. Take it slow if you're going somewhere new. Potholes are a big issue. But yeah, I mean, that's like one of the most dangerous things in Ukraine, man. Like, if I'm going to die in Ukraine, most likely it's not going to be from like a missile or something like that. It's going to be in a car accident. It's going to be because of a reckless driver. Some drivers here are super impatient. It really ticks me off sometimes how bad some drivers are here. A lot of people are good. Kyiv is horrible. Some of the drivers in Kyiv are just utter, like, disgusting. But in other parts, it's okay. It's not too bad. But yeah, just road quality. Some areas are nice. Some areas are not nice. Some areas you have to really follow the rules, like stupid rules where like you see that double line. It's like to leave one of the areas I always leave, there's a double line. So I literally have to go one way, go into like some neighborhood to do a U-turn. There's no way for me to cross the street. In the US, you'd have had this like thing already. It's like some areas just doesn't make sense, but you have to follow the rules. Block post. You ready for block posts? Yeah, there's plenty of block posts. I'd say always have your IDs, documents, ready to go at a moment's notice. The police do not need a reason to pull you over. I have been pulled over just because I was just driving. I remember one group, I was heading to Kyiv once, and literally the police were like tailgating me for like 5 minutes. Oh, and here's the other thing too. Their lights are always on. That's very confusing to me. Their lights are always on. The blue light is always on. Every like service vehicle, like ambulance or a police vehicle, and like bank vehicles, vehicles that carry money, they will always have their lights on. That doesn't mean they're an emergency and you have, make way for them. That's just showing you, I guess, that they're there, pay attention, I guess. That was confusing to me at first because I tried to get out of an ambulance way first because it had its light on, and I was like, okay, no, you have to wait for the sound. But the police, once you see a police with the red light on, that's when they're signaling you to pull over. So yeah, I was just driving straight, 5 minutes, and I see the police, they're behind me. I'm just watching their light. I'm just waiting for them to turn that red light on. I'm going definitely at the speed limit. And, there's the cameras, the speed cameras, or like document cameras, I guess. So you got to slow down for those. I slowed down for that, even though they can't even register my foreign number. But yeah, 5 minutes, just their tail light, and then eventually, yeah, they turn their light on, and I pull over. I get all my documents ready, give them, Ukrainian ID, Make sure you have your vehicle, document ready. Most of that's the other thing too. They always ask me for like my vehicle passport. If you're an American, you're like, what the hell's a vehicle passport? I didn't get one of those when I came here. Vehicle passport, yeah, yeah, I guess that's a thing in the EU pretty much. We don't have it in the US. Just make sure you have your registration and also your title. You need those two documents. I've been thinking about, I really need to. I need to make a cheat sheet when I go to the border each time and just give them like a cheat sheet. So like they don't have to try to like read through a foreign document that's in a foreign language that they've never seen before. And just, give them all that information. I can say, oh, there's that, if they need to ask. I think that would probably definitely speed up the process. But yeah, police are going to pull you over. They don't need a reason. Just sometimes don't even try to speak Ukrainian if your Ukrainian's super broken. And sometimes they speak Surgic to me. Sometimes they'll say some stuff in, a little Russian, and I'm like, I don't understand, man. I just don't know what I mean. I don't understand. And then they're like, all right, get them. But yeah, block posts, all that. Just make sure you have all your documents ready to go. They're going to ask you to search your vehicle. They have the full right to. This isn't the U.S. There is no Fourth Amendment. Or I guess I don't know if that would be the Fourth Amendment. Probable cause. They don't need a probable cause to search your vehicle. They just search your vehicle. You're in Ukraine, man. Play ball. They can make your life harder. I always say here, just try and make it as easy as possible. And in general, I never had never been, I know, people talk about corruption too, about police. No police has ever asked me for a bribe. Not a single one has ever asked me for something like that. They've definitely clamped down on that. The ideas of giving out bribes and all that bullshit. I've never seen it. One time they let me off the hook, and I forgot. I let my documents in my book bag, and I left my book bag in my, where I live. And I went to a place nearby, and I had to make a U-turn somewhere, and the police saw me. They pulled me over. And this is also during the Kyiv Star blackout when Kyivstar wasn't working for a week. And that was the only cell service I had. Pro tip, if you're going to Ukraine, get 2 cell phone servers, okay? Get a LifeCell and Kyivstar. They're dirt cheap. LifeCell, you can have unlimited data. I think it's $8, maybe $12 a month for unlimited data, unlimited calls. $12 a month. Just get it. And Kyivstar, you can get like a decent plan for like $7. All right, so get 2 SIM cards in case some shit happens again. Because yeah, they asked me like, they're trying to be like, be helpful. It's like, all right, can you show us, something online? I'm like, dude, I got Kyivstar. I can't show you anything. So the town, and they were like, oh shit. They're just wheeled there for a bit, like, all right, go. I was like, all right, thanks, guys. So yeah, you always need to make sure you have all your documents always with you. And a lot of times you need the original document. You cannot have a copy of the document. Ukraine's really big on wet marked documents, having documents that are the original. They have the original wet stamp. That's really big here in Ukraine. It sucks sometimes because sometimes it doesn't make sense because you have to have documents mailed to you by Nova Poshta. Documents that should just be online, easy stuff. But yeah, that's how it is, a bit of the old Soviet system. But yeah, corruption-wise, that stuff, I never had any issue with that. Anyone asking me to pay a bribe or something. Fun thing, though, fucking Moldova. Since I entered Moldova, I needed a green card to do a U-turn in Moldova. Took me an hour to get the green card, pretty much. And then when I did the fucking U-turn, I showed the guy all the documents. He didn't speak any English. He didn't speak Ukrainian. And then eventually someone told me, like, I needed to pay a tax, road tax. I need to pay a $4 road tax in Moldova. I laughed. The guy said, don't fucking laugh. And I was like, oh, sorry. I pretty much had it up. I was like, dude, I just need to make a U-turn. How much do I have to pay to do a U-turn in Moldova? Yeah, but no, getting into Ukraine. And they'll check your vehicle, guys. Don't think, because you're there doing good shit, you're trying to help people, that they're just going to wave you on through and they're not going to check your vehicle. They'll check your vehicle, man. They got a fucking job. Fun thing today, I actually asked me if I wanted to train one of their drug sniffer dogs. So I got to see a drug sniffer dog, actually how they actually respond. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, they'll check. Last time, like, yeah, the last time, once I got comfortable with it, I was in Moldova and I was leaving Moldova, and both sides of the border, they're asking me like, are you carrying anything? And I was like, no, I'm carrying nothing. And they're both very suspicious, and they're like, are you sure you have nothing to declare? I'm like, yeah, I got nothing to declare, man. I was in Moldova to work out on my visa paperwork, and so they saw I was in Moldova for a month, and that's when they get fishy. And so, yeah, the Moldovan side did a good check. The Ukrainian side did a proper, thorough check. Everywhere where I would want to hide something, they check there. So it's good to know that those aren't good hiding spots. But yeah, just don't fuck around with it, guys. But I know, like, there's a lot of paperwork now when it does come into bringing stuff into Ukraine. That's a whole other topic. I'm not going to get into bringing stuff into Ukraine humanitarian wise. I did a run to Odessa with humanitarian goods. That was a freaking nightmare. This is just driving in general in Ukraine. Let's see, what else? Anything else? Insurance in Ukraine. You do need insurance. Insurance is dirt cheap though, but don't expect it to work. Yeah, here in Ukraine, it's driving wise. It can be a little scary at first if if you're like a cautious driver. It can definitely be a bit scary. Driving at night, there's no lights. It's always pitch black. If you're a bad nighttime driver, I highly recommend plan your schedule, drive during the day. I think that's pretty much it, man. Oh yeah, beware on highways. Highways can go from good to fucking dirt. That surprised me once. I was on a decent highway. I think I was going from Vinnytsia to Zaporizhia. It's a normal highway, all good, and then no signs. There was no warning sign, no nothing. It literally turns into a gravel road. The highway turns into a gravel road for probably like 500 meters, and it's an uphill gravel road. And you have to take your time, take it slow. And yeah, it was good. I saw that first during the day because on the way back, I think we hit it at night, and I was saying like, if I had a full loaded van of goods, this guy's going 60 miles an hour at night, and all of a sudden, a paved highway road turns to freaking gravel, and you're going down at like maybe like a 4 or 5 degree decline. It's gonna be scary. So yeah, it sucks sometimes. Know the roads. I'd say, yeah, definitely do a little pre-planning. Also, Google Maps isn't too bad, but always don't take the shortest route. Sometimes you see a shorter route and Google Maps doesn't give it to you. There's probably a good reason Google Maps decided not to give you that shorter route. Not all roads are equal here in Ukraine, man. Yeah, the first route I took to Zaporizhia, I went through like the most boondocks of boondocks, areas of like the Carpathians. I think at one point I crossed a bridge without no railings. I almost want to say it was a wooden bridge. Couldn't have been a wooden bridge. But yeah, I was like, first time traveling, I was like, what's going on? Yeah, in certain areas, the roads just give out and you're on a dirt road. So yeah, you have to learn to be a pretty decent driver. Sometimes the roads can be very narrow too. That's something else you got to be wary about. Narrow roads. There's a lot of small, narrow neighborhood roads that you need to learn how to drive around. You got to become very comfortable with the dimensions of your vehicle that you're driving in. I remember when we did our first humanitarian run, we were grabbing goods and we went to the bazaar. Oh my gosh, man. Like I got very good at, very niche, only inches of spare room in between on both sides. But yeah, you get better at it. But yeah, also, pedestrians. I know like cams, there's no camcorders. You can't have camcorders right now during the war. So, you can't record your driving and all that. And it's kind of sad because sometimes, I've never met like a scammer. I've never met like a scam, like people talk about, you see in the US sometimes people doing like brake checks or something to do like some sort of scam on you. Never heard about scams here. Almost ran over a drunk. That, just 10 o'clock in the morning, normal day. And at first, sometimes some people cross. Everyone's very good when it comes to zebra crossings. They're very good at, only doing the zebra crossing when there's, only crossing where there's a zebra crossing. They don't just walk across. There's not much jaywalking here in Ukraine. Um, Drunks, though, yeah, no. Freaking drunk just started jaywalking across the street, and usually I thought he'd have a little more sense to kind of slow down. He did not slow down. I had to swerve to not hit him. So, yeah, you gotta be careful in that sense. But I mean, overall, the driving here, it's pretty. It's gonna be a little intense if you're coming from the States or an area where there's like a very regimented or like, just follow the lines in the US and you'll be okay, right? Here, that's not the case. Sometimes you can't find the lines. Sometimes the roads are so degraded that the lines have been eroded. Um, oh, yeah, also, you can't make a left turn on a green light. I learned that too. That's a big one. In the US, you have more autonomy when to do certain turns. Like you can make a left turn or a right turn if you're at a cross section. You got a green light, unless it specifically tells you not to. That's not so in Ukraine. You can't make a right turn at a cross section unless you see a green arrow allowing you to do that. Um, yeah, I found that a little confusing. Oh yeah, also, student drivers here, you'll see like signs. You'll see cars with like a little triangle sign above on the roof. And might have like the letter U, maybe S? No, no, just U. I think it's just U. Or like sh. They might have sh. I think I might have seen sh once or twice. But usually it's a U. That means it's a student driver. They drive god awfully slow. You're going to be so aggravated when you're stuck behind them. Just get around them. It's okay. It's normal. They are not, and that was a big thing too, finding out. A lot of people here, they'll ask you for a driver's license. Driver's licenses are not easy to come by from what I understand in Ukraine. One, you have like the practical test, which you go to driver school for, but then you have the written test. And from what I've been told, the written test is like really tough. So, and I don't know how tough that actually is. They say it's tough. Sometimes some people say some stuff here is tough. I'm like, we probably did the same in the US. But yeah, some people, they don't have driver's license, especially during the war. One of my friends, she said her brother, I think he's like 20. He's like 21. Doesn't have, he's a commander. He's like a platoon commander or a company commander. Doesn't have a driver's license. He went to join the army. He doesn't have time for a driver's license, but he's got a vehicle. You know, what's he supposed to do? The war makes for interesting situations. You'd say that. So, yeah, and another interesting thing here, like I got the old vehicles. That's funny. The old Soviet cars. You'll see the old Soviet cars here, man. They're still running. It amazes me. One of my friend's dads, he has a Mercedes. I think the vehicle's older than me. I think it was a 1989 van, Mercedes van. It has clocked well over 999,000 kilometers. It just freaking resets. But yeah, you'll see some old vehicles here. And some vehicles are nice. And so how they'll do is they'll just pull over just a bit to the side curb to let you pass them. And that allows you to pass. And that's a polite thing to do if you got a big vehicle and you're driving a bit slower. And a vehicle's coming up behind you fast on the highway. You kind of just, if there's space on the right-hand side, you'll see it. You'll see bigger, transport vans will kind of just take up half the off lane. They'll just be kind of in between lanes. And you're like, what the fuck's wrong with that guy? He's just allowing people to pass him. Other thing too, you'll see people swerve onto your side of the road. That might be intimidating at first, but they're probably doing it to avoid potholes. That is very common. If there's a pothole, you do not have to drive on that pothole, all right? No one's going to give you shit for getting on the other side of the road or taking up the center to avoid a pothole, all right? That is very common here. Obviously, don't swerve onto oncoming traffic, but yeah, it's something that's kind of normal here. You drive where the road's best, not where the lines tell you. Oh, what was I talking about? Yeah, old vehicles. Yeah, you'll see some old vehicles. It's kind of cool when you see them. Ramon has an old one. It's a death rattle trap, man. It's like when I flew in a Cessna. You think the thing's about ready to fall apart any second. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it when it comes to driving. every city's different too. My city I live in, Venezia, the driving's pretty normal. Most people are pretty decent. There's nothing too crazy. Lviv sucks. Lviv is not a fun city to drive in. One, it's overcrowded with machines. Two, very narrow streets. Three, cobblestone freaking streets. The cobblestones, man. Yeah, if you're ever driving through downtown, yeah, it takes you like an hour to get through the city if you're going anywhere that's like during normal business hours. It's a pain in the ass to find parking. Oh yeah, that's the thing too, parking. Basically you can park wherever. You just can't park where it says you can't park. That's pretty much how it works here in Ukraine. You can park wherever, just not where it tells you you can park. So I think that's it for me rambling on the highway. And I've just been driving straight. And I think I've passed like one car so far. Yeah, if you're ever in country and you just need to get out of the country, Moldova's a nice one. If you're going by vehicle, you can always, by foot is by far the easiest. If you just need to get into country and get out, take a flight to Krakow, get a train to the closest city. I think it's called Primesh. I'm really bad over there when it comes to names in that area. And you can just walk across the border pretty much. I'll make a video about that when I'm in Lviv one day. Go grab French fries in Poland and show you how easy it is. All right, guys, that's it for me. Thanks for sticking around if you're still around. Hopefully you learned something or you found it a bit interesting. All right, Florida man out.